Okay, so if you're still watching my screen, what I have pulled up is the ERD, the Entity Relationship Diagram, that shows a draft. Again, this is just a draft of our different collections in Mongo. And we kind of drafted this together. And I'm calling it a draft because it can and probably should change the more we work on this project, the like. And so you can kind of see what we have is a bugs collection. And in the bugs collection, we've got these different arrays. And so here, you might notice I have an array, the identifier is called comments. I know that I can kind of zoom in on this. Okay, so I have an array called comments. And then the colon, separates the data type from the identifier. So on the left-hand side, the identifier is called comments. That's in our code. And then the data type is essentially comment IDs. Now, what are comment IDs? Comment IDs are object IDs. Okay, so you could also just put the data type of object ID because that's really the actual data type. But I put the word comment ID just to say that they will all be object IDs that relate to this comments collection. And so this kind of is a one, these two bars here say one and only one. So one bug can have many comments. So one bug can have 0 or many. That's kind of what these symbols mean. So one bug, one and only one bug, can have 0 comments or many comments. And so what I wanted to do is kind of show you a couple different approaches, because again, this is what the ERD kind of is. Now this comments collection kind of signifies that there is a Mongo collection called comments. So just like there's a database, and inside of database you have a bunch of collections, and inside those collections you have a bunch of documents, right? That's the language. And so if I kind of open up my Mongo Compass, I have this database called Tailrunner, and pet owners. I really only have one collection, and we can call this pet owners kind of like my users collection. You guys have a users collection. This is essentially my collection. And so I wanted to kind of make a ad hoc, kind of a similar setup, right? That'll prepare you to do, bugs and comments on your final tracker, as I demonstrate pet owners and something else. So pet owners can have many whatever, and since I'm, just thinking as I go, maybe pet owners can buy supplies, they can have orders, So I might, just as a simple example, and it doesn't even matter what you're ordering. I just want to show another collection. And so in this simple example, I'll make another collection called orders. And a pet owner can have 0 or many orders, just like a bug can have 0 or many comments. Okay, and my goal here is to kind of demonstrate some different ways you could approach this in your upcoming lab. Right, everyone with me so far? Yep. Understand why I'm doing this? All right. And so here I've got my Tailrunner open, and let me kind of get this kind of zoomed in so you can see the code nice and clean. And I've got this booted up on localhost. And here it's all localhost. Okay, I'm not really doing anything with Google Cloud on this. Bless you. Bless you. And The first thing I want to show you, and you've written a little bit of this code so far, is remember to connect into Mongo. We installed MongoDB driver. And so this is a NPM package that allows you to kind of get low level and write Mongo queries. Right? There's a really popular package out there that I've avoided bringing into this class because it abstracts some of the things that we're writing code for, which is called Mongoose. I don't know if you guys have heard of Mongoose. Mongoose is certainly a really popular NPM package, but it kind of gets you away from the code a little bit. And what I like about MongoDB driver is it kind of keeps you a little bit closer to writing Mongo queries and all of the the find commands and insert one commands and delete one commands, insert many, all that kind of stuff. Anyways, this object ID, right? So we've been using object ID, and notice here we used object ID to convert a string into an object ID, of course, and this object ID can be used to do that. It can be used to convert data types, a string, into a Mongo object ID. It can also just be used to generate Mongo's object IDs, Mongo object IDs. And so this method, if you don't send an argument into the method, will generate an object ID. The other way to generate a Mongo object ID. The other way, and you guys have seen this, if you do an insert command like this, like if I do an insert add pet owner, of course Mongo will generate an object ID for you. Okay, so there's a couple ways. One, using this method from the driver, or two, just letting Mongo insert one for you. What I like about this, okay, now here, if I just insert an owner and then Mongo generates the ID, then I have to do another operation of like reselecting the owner to find out that owner's ID, right? So this insert one is one command against the database. But at this stage, on line 45, I don't know what that owner ID is. And so then I would have to do a read operation and somehow find my owner, maybe by their email address, and then I could get their object ID. Well, going back to this ERD, we're working with IDs. So it's going to be helpful probably to generate the ID in our own JavaScript so that we can not only insert a new document here in the comments, but we can also insert that comment ID in the array. Okay, because this new comment ID that we're going to create needs to go in two places. It needs to go here in the document, in the new comment document. It also needs to be inserted here, right? It's the same comment ID is going to be put in two places. Now, in relational databases, this is called a foreign key, right? It would be a primary key value in the comments collection, but then it would be a foreign key value in the bugs collection. Everyone with me so far? So we're going to have to insert this comment ID. Now, what is it going to be over here? We don't have comments. Instead, we have pet owners, and I'm going to make, a collection called orders. And pet owners can order stuff. It doesn't really matter what they're ordering. It's literally, our orders are just going to be an ID, maybe a string for the name of what you're ordering, and like a quantity. Okay, so orders are pretty simple. And that's going to be a one-to-many relationship. Again, one pet owner can have 0 or many orders. And this is just one approach. I'm going to show two approaches here. And this is more what you would consider like the relational approach, where you have two different collections and they're related through keys. Okay, so let's go back to the code and let's kind of collapse all these functions, and let's write an async function. I'll just call this add order, and I'll take in an order object. Okay, and cool. Real generic syntax. Now, I don't at this stage have my ID, right? I'm accepting into this function, I'm accepting an order object. The question is, when do I attach the ID? Well, I could attach the ID in the controller, if you will, in the module for orders. I haven't created that yet. Or I can attach it here. I'll tell you what. I'm going to use it in the. I'm going to generate my ID in the module, not in the database module, but in the what I'll call controller module. Okay, so here's an add order function. Let's go ahead and export it. Okay. I don't have a route for this, so maybe I can just make a order route, order JavaScript file. And yeah, I will import Express on this. I'll import a debug channel, a router, and then I have to export my router at the end of it. And the name of the router will be order router as such. And did I bring in the debug? I think I did. Okay, this will be order debug order and app order. So a little debug channel there. And then in my index.js, just as I did here, I need to import that router. Import order router. Let's see that my routes API order.js. That looks good. And then, just as I did down here, orders, order routers. So if I'm going to list all my orders, well, orders should be associated for a pet owner. So my routing's not done here. For example, I need to have an order for a particular pet owner. And so if I kind of go into my order router, my route will be router.get. I need a :ID, and I'll call this my owner ID. Maybe like, let's follow the owner ID. Now, this, because I'm hitting, again, remember this is concatenation, /API /orders /owner ID. So I pass that owner ID. This will give me the list of orders for that owner. Everyone with me so far?
Yep.
One person confirms. Sir?
Don't you need a slash in front of
Let's see if I'm forgetting a slash. I do need a slash in front of the colon. I do not need it at the end. Thank you. Right, so if we're following concatenation rules, we got a slash here, we got a slash there, and therefore we need a slash here. Good eye. Thank you. Okay. Now this is going to list all of my orders, but I got to be able to create an order before I got to be able to create an order before I can list all of my orders, unless I just plug in some data, some dummy data. I guess I can do that, right? So let me just, again, kind of going back to the UML just to show, I have a comment ID. Yeah, I don't think I need a user ID over there because the user ID, okay. If I go back to pet owners, let's give John Doe, let's generate an order first, right? So I'm going to add some data and associate that data with John Doe. So insert a document, and let's go to we'll just have item dog bone quantity 3. All right, so we insert that document, and our object ID is created here. And again, just kind of manually copying this object ID. Now this is an order ID, right? Obviously this is an order ID. Let's go to pet owners. Let's modify one of these, John Doe. And we're going to click this little plus. If you haven't done, I think you guys have seen me do this, but use Compass to insert data, modify, add item to dogs, add a field after dogs. These is my orders. Orders is an array. And the data type is object ID. And if I paste my object ID, and update that, there we can see the last 2 ending in C3. And if I go over here, that's my C3, right? So this is how you relate different collections through this ID. All right, so now to, return the orders, the list of orders, this is going to be an array, so we really just have to select this property. And so we take in an owner ID. This is going to be real similar to like get the owner by ID. You just get the owner by ID, and then you just have to send back the orders property to get all the owner orders from the owner ID. So I can actually go back into, if I open up dog owner and I get like here, like this, it's going to be real similar to this, right? Because this gets the whole pet owner, right, including their orders. But really, I just need the array that is part of that. Now, of course, we need to start bringing in this module, right? So let's import get owner by ID from, okay, this pathing is nonsense. So let's just manually go back through this. Dot dot slash dot dot slash and database dot JS. Oh, where'd I go wrong? Oh, okay. Because it's asynchronous, we have to await keyword. Async. It's Monday morning. Async await. And now what? Unexpected curly.
At the bottom.
Is that a whole extra maybe?
Yeah, I think it's all extras.
All right. Extra semicolon there as well. Let's save that. Okay, now we're booting. So obviously this gets back the whole owner, and you know, we don't want the whole owner sent back. We could just send back owner dot, and what was it? Was orders, right? Because we just made an orders property. Let's see, where am I? Let's see. Okay, now pet owner's orders, that's just an object ID. So that's not exactly right. That's going to get the object ID out of the orders. Okay, so this is part of it, right? So this will just get us our object ID, right? But that doesn't actually get the order. So this is not correct. What I need to do, let's just hit the route, okay? Before I get too deep, because I've already written a whole lot of code. Let's start testing. This, by the way, owner ID becomes that owner ID, and owner ID. And this is debug order. Let's boot up Postman and start fixing some other bugs, because okay, so right now this is nothing to do with orders, but notice if I list all my dog owners, that's all there. I do have an orders array. All right, so that's there. Let's go ahead and make a new request here. Add request.
Should that be an object ID?
Get all orders. I'm sorry?
Should that be an object ID in the orders array? Because that was just a string.
Oh, in Postman it just looks like a string.
Oh yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That kept messing with me the other day.
Yeah.
I was like, it's not working.
Yep. So what's our route? We got http://localhost 2024 API. Was it orders slash? And then if I say this John Doe, this is all the orders for John Doe, right? And okay, right now we are getting that ID back. Okay, so this is working as intended. Here I can see in the order. Here's my debug order. Line 13 is spitting this back right here. So we're doing good here. Okay, I'm going to comment that out. Okay, so now, I mean, you can kind of think about what we need to do is probably for each over that array. This is an array, and we need to say for each order. You know, let's loop over that and just get the data for that order, and then send that back. And so I would do something like let orders equals array owner.orders dot for each for each order. Debug order. Now let's orders array dot push. So here we start orders as an empty array. We'll call this user orders. Okay, so here we have an empty array of user orders. Orders array dot push order, and then send back user orders. And just to make this a little bit, yeah. Okay. So again, remember that this orders array is just a bunch of order IDs. Okay, so we're going to loop over the order IDs, and what I need to do, I need to actually call like I got to call on my orders collection, right? Because I keep forgetting these are just order IDs. So I need to get order by ID essentially here, which is not something that we've written here. We've only had add order, right? But this actually is going to be working code. It's just still not going to spit anything back besides order IDs. Oh gosh, where am I? Right here. Okay. So this is still just going to be an array of order IDs. So at this point, if this is still working, it still should just spit back my order IDs. Okay, so I'm sending back this user orders. It's really sending back the same thing. So now that I've got the order IDs and I'm looping over them, I need to read each one and get the information into a user orders array. And so let's get an order by ID, right? Async function, get order by ID, send in the ID. And let's see if the ID, you guys now know a better way of dealing with Mongo IDs with that valid ID that we covered last week. So if I was using valid ID, I would not have to write this logic. But nonetheless, order, get one by ID, find one. Let's not even, okay. So this will actually hit the orders collection, find one by the ID, and now we can export get order by ID. Okay, back over here. Const user order equals, and I'm sure I can this, just to be clear, this isn't an order ID because we have to await this. Order by ID, what are you not happy about? Oh, doesn't like that this is in a for each. Await expressions are only allowed within async functions at the top levels of modules.
Yeah, I had that happen to me.
Yeah, so okay, putting me on a thinking moment now. Order ID. Uh-huh. This is now user order. No. Yeah. I don't think this is going to make a difference if I just await it here. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to refactor this to a for loop, right? So for, and see, instead of using the for each syntax, it's cool with a traditional for loop instead of the for each. So starting I at 0, looping through the length of the orders. That looks to be working. So here's an individual order, pushing that individual order onto the array of orders and sending back the array of orders. Now if I save that, hit my route. All right, we got somewhere. Let's see where it broke. Oh, right here. Await get order by ID. That's not sub I. That's just going to be... Okay, I got to refactor my logic here. Okay, individual order, get...
Dog owner? Should it be dog owner?
This is... Okay, orders is our array. Okay, user orders. Okay, I0, orders, again, orders is our array of IDs. So that should be good. User order, owner dot orders sub I. That looks good. I'm gonna have to introduce some debug order. Let's just make sure that at this point on line 20, we're getting our IDs there, which I believe we are. Oh, I got a 500 error. Okay, that is working. It's an array. Let me go back to my, okay, so let's see if I get to the get order by ID. Let's see if I get to that portion. So here's that. And I'm going to say debug DB. Actually, let's just bring this in. Order, JSON stringify order. Let's see if we hit the debug module or the database module. So I'll send it. Okay, notice I do not at that point, I do not hit this debug. So let's bring it up here. Let me debug DB on this line and then just do something like that. Now my ID should be sent in, so this is just going to spit out my ID if I hit that line. This is good for you guys to see a little troubleshooting. It's not even hitting that line. Okay, notice it's hitting the order route, but it's not getting here. So let's go back here. It's hitting that. Owner.orders, which is that. Now it should have a length property, so it should be.
Can you go back to your database?
I can. Okay, so my order, my length property is 1, so that should be hitting. You wanna look at my database?
Oh no, the database JS file.
Database JS.
Yes. So you have lowercase get order, and you have capital when you order. So it's not even calling that function.
Oh, lowercase get order by ID. Beautiful. exporting get owner order by ID. And if I go over here,
Oh, yeah, right there on the way.
beautiful. Thank you. And I need to bring it in, right? There we go. Thank you. Now we hit it.
Which also need to import get dog owner by ID. I know you already did. Wait, no, you didn't. Wait.
Did I? Okay, so there's get. Oh, I deleted one and brought that in. Get pet owner by ID, comma, get order by ID. I need both. I deleted one. Now we're at least getting 200 okay, so we're getting somewhere. Now it's sending back invalid ID, which is beautiful. It's getting somewhere. So order.length, we're getting to here. And for whatever reason, our ID.length is not equal to 24. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 2, 4.
It might be worth changing it to the valid.
Oh, here's what it is. At this point, our ID is an object ID. So you cannot check the length property of a string against an object ID. So this logic doesn't work. This if else doesn't work. Again, what you want to do there is use the valid ID middleware that we did. Okay. So we refactored that differently last week. Hey. All right. And so there we have get order by ID. Let's take this out. Let's take those debugs out. And go back here. We could take that out. Okay, and we're sending back our user orders. Now let's just put another order in, right? So here's our orders. Let's add another order. Add data. Insert document. We got the item singular. Apparently our orders can only have single items. Item and a quantity is all we got. Insert document. Item. Dog bowl. Quantity 1. Insert. All right, there's our object ID. Let's copy that. Let's go here and edit, add item to orders, object ID, paste, update. So now our orders has 2 object IDs. And if I go back to listing all our orders, there we go. Okay. And this is method 1. We're not done. Let's router.post an owner ID. So this is going to be, this is basically our add order, right? So this is add new order. So following the full path is API orders / the user's ID, owner ID. We're getting the order from rec.body. Body is an object. This is going to do that. Now, according to this, there's an order amount. No, there's not an order amount. Our properties are what? Item and quantity. So we need an item and a quantity. If there's not an item and a quantity, we send back invalid request. Otherwise, we call an add order. Now, add order is a function we need to bring in. So async function add order. Add order, let's see. We send in the ID and we send in the object. So here we look the owner up by its ID. That should be good. And insert. Now hold on. Okay. This is not going to work. So the first step as we add an order, and I kind of alluded to this, is I want to generate an object ID. And that's going to come from Mongo. Import object ID from Mongo. And so we're going to accept the order from rec.body. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say order dot order dot underscore ID is a new object ID. So now on our order object, we're going to generate that object ID right here. Now we have access to our ID from this point forward. Because what we have to do after we, think about this, after we add an order, we also need to push it onto the owner ID's array. Okay, so here we call add order. Let me export add owner down here, add order. Okay, add order, add order. That's why I started to write that, but that's not going to work, right? So I got to take that out. We're using this one. I don't even, let's see, owner ID. At this point, just like I did in Mongo, I didn't worry about the owner ID. I literally just worried about the order. So I just want to pass in the order at this point. I don't need to look up the owner by the ID at this point. I just want to insert an order. That order should have an order ID. And then we have to update our user, right? Our user, if you kind of go back to update pet owner, we need to call this update pet owner. once we generate the order. So, okay, generate the order. Let's think about this. There's order, order. Okay, so this adds an order. Now kind of going back to our update route. Let's look at our update route. Add update. We get the owner. This makes sense to do at this point. So here we add the order. Let's get the pet owner by the ID, which this is owner ID. Then I would do current owner orders push, order ID, bada bing, bada boom. And then we await update pet owner with the current owner. So there's two database operations, right? So we're going to add the order. And for the sake of this, I'm going to const add order result equals. Then I'm going to debug order that result. And then I'm going to const at update user result debug, and then all we'll do is we'll send back new order added. All right, so if I walk through the logic here, order ID, notice I generated the order ID, I sent that into add order, and then I was able to push that order ID here on line 47. And that's kind of like the key takeaway that I would advise you guys to pay attention to. I pushed it here, then I called the update pet owner because that's where the orders array exists. You have to update that orders array. And if my update pet owner logic is still good, I don't have any bugs in there, which I very well may have a bug. Let's hit this route now. So here, this is the same route, but it's a post now. So add request. This is a post request. Here, this is API orders, body. Okay, if I post this, I should get this back right away. Invalid request. And that's because I need to send it an item and a quantity. So an item and a quantity. Cat toy and 2. And it does crash. So let's begin to troubleshoot. So here, we didn't get here. So order, let's throw a debug order here. And it's probably in my add order result. Add order. Oh, I didn't bring in add order. That was my problem. There's add order, database, add order. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, we're getting somewhere though. Okay, order, item, cat, toy, quantity of 2. Okay, it did do an order insert, so I should be able to go into my orders, refresh, and see my cat toy was put in. So that was not, it got that far, which is good. Let's see, debug order, add order result. That's right here. Okay, so here, which by the way, my new order is 01. If I refresh it over here, okay, it did not. It's probably on my update user. Okay, so here I made it this far. Update pet owner, current owner. So let's go to my update pet owner. Here, update pet owner. It takes the owner. I'm throwing the debug db and stringify the updated owner. So let's see if we're making it to this line right here. Throw that in. Okay, it is not making it there. Update pet owner. Do I bring it in? Nope. Comma, same problem. Update pet owner. Okay, let's delete this. All these cat toys that we're creating. Delete, 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 delete. So we bring in the method to use the method. That makes sense. Let's hit it. Now it says 201 created cat toy. So let's see. Okay, so here's cat toy with ends in 34. If I go back here and I refresh, 34 is now on my orders for my pet owners. And if I go back to the prior route, get all orders for that guy, you can now see my cat toy's been added for my owner. Okay, this is the harder approach. This, where you're linking these collections together by their IDs. I wanted to show this one first because it's the harder of the two approaches. But I think, I've run through doing an edit or an add operation and a get operation. The rest of the operations, it's really the same process. You just had to kind of understand how they're being linked together through their IDs. The other approach, all right, and I'm not going to code this one out because it's already been long enough. It's been an hour. I wasn't planning on this. The other approach, I want you guys to kind of take a look here for me, and you guys are welcome to do this. This is easier. I would consider this an easier approach. What you could do is you could, instead of having a separate collection of comments, this array of comments here could be an array of objects. It would be an array of comments. So you actually, at that point, you don't need this separate collection. Okay, and so this could be in your solution, and I do think from a coding standpoint, just having an array of objects in bugs, that could be, you could go down that approach. And then you don't have to actually link, the bugs through their IDs, the comment IDs. Okay, so then it's like, well, Mr. G, why did we make a comments collection? Why didn't we just have a bugs collection with an array of comment objects? That's the other approach. Why not? And the answer is there's kind of two approaches. Like this approach that we're using is a more traditional normalized database approach. The other approach where you just have an array of objects, that is NoSQL, if you will. That's a strength of NoSQL databases. And so you might ask, well, which one should I use? Because which one's better? I would even make the case, I mean, if you're in a NoSQL world, I've done both, and I personally lean towards using the strength of NoSQL, which is you don't have to have these relationships and foreign keys and all this. I actually like the idea of just having an array of comment objects here. All right, it's up to you, because that would simplify. There would be one less collection here. There would be probably less collections that you have. You might just wind up with a bugs collection, a users collection, and probably an edits collection. We're going to get to those edits. All right. I guess, take away what you will from it. There is another approach. You could go either way. There's no right or wrong answer. I have my preferences. I've done both. And so I demonstrated one. The other way would be something you could do. All right. Okay, so you're like, Mr. G, you just wrote a ton of code. This is on my Tailrunner. I'll push this to GitHub, right? So you guys will have access to this. Of course, you can watch the video if you want to kind of go back through step by step, but if you just want access to the code, I'll make access available through GitHub. Okay, so you guys, if you look on the Discord text channel, you'll see my GitHub repo, and I'll push that there. All right. Other than that, you guys got the rest of today to do some work.